Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you listening right now. Jeffrey Zilks, thank you. Also, Alo, Tony Glass, and brand new patron Gordon. New patrons, you're the best. On this episode of DTNS, Molly Wood is here to tell us how big tech plans to responsibly power their big tech. Plus, Meta's latest text-to-video generator includes sound, and Matt Mullenweg pays 8% of his staff to leave. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, October 4th, 2024 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Spooky Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From the creepy Bay Area, I'm Molly Wood.
I am using a new mic. I'm Len Peralta from Cleveland.
It's working.
Yay,
it's working, Len. Your new mic is working.
Yay. And I'm the show's producer, and I don't have any sort of a flourish to describe where I'm at.
You don't have to be spooky. It's fine.
I was going to say, You say that, but that was kind of a little bit of a flourish right there.
I know, you were all so understanding about that. I was like, suck it up, it's spooky season, figure it out.
Len's mic may have died right before the show, but he has rallied. Good job, Len.
Yes, I've got
Good
something
job,
going
Len.
on, a handheld here, so
Indeed.
we'll see how that
All right,
goes.
let's see how it goes. We shall start with the hits that are quick.
The first point upgrade to Apple's operating systems usually fixes most of the quibbles and quirks that people have with the major release. So it's worth noting that iOS 18.0.1, iPadOS 18.0.1, and macOS Sequoia 15.0.1 are all out, including rolling out a version of iPadOS 18 for M4 iPads that does not brick them, because nobody wants to have an iPad bricked. So if you were having some of those reported freezes or unresponsive touch screen issues, those should be fixed in this release. 9to5Mac also seems to think that it has sources reliable enough to report that Apple will use its own 5G modems in the next iPhone SE, which is expected to be announced after the first of the year.
And Google says, you're going to make your own baseband? Well, we're going to secure ours. Google released details of updates to the firmware of the cellular baseband used in the Pixel 9. If you don't know what it is, the baseband manages your communication with the cellular network, so LTE, 5G, etc. And it can be subject to vulnerabilities like any other software. So if it's got an exploit, it could be connecting to a false cell tower or fooled into connecting to the wrong base station, accepting manipulated network packets, stuff like that. Google's mitigations include protections against buffer overflows, methods to detect and alert the system of attempts to manipulate the flow of packets, and other protections against misallocated memory. If you're into this sort of thing, Google has a whole post detailing the stack canaries and control flow integrity that it is implementing. If you're not interested in what those are, just know that the Pixel 9 takes more measures to protect the phone from an attack over a cellular network.
Google also appears to be experimenting with a verification system that puts blue check marks next to search results for businesses that it can guarantee are legitimate and not a copycat site, for example. The Verge noted links to Microsoft, Meta, Epic Games, Apple, Amazon, and HP. Not all accounts will see the check marks. The feature is still in testing, not being rolled out to all users at this time. Google does use its own data analysis, like site verification and merchant data, along with human reviews, to issue the verification. So if you see a check mark and hover over it, you'll get the message, Google signals suggest that this business is the business it says it is.
Maybe it's not, but we think it is. We got some more signs that we're getting near the NVIDIA 50 series GPUs as the 4090 has started to be in short supply. That's not all that surprising. We were expecting NVIDIA 50 series to come during CES, and usually the 90 series is the first they announce. WCCF Tech, though, reports that some Chinese board channel buzz claims the RTX 4080 Super is about to be in limited supply as well. And if that ends up being true, it would mean that NVIDIA might be announcing the 5090 and the 5080 series simultaneously. Like I said, an announcement is expected around CES in early January.
The browser company's Arc search app is now available in open beta for Android and listed in the Google Play Store. It includes a feature called Browse for Me that summarizes an answer to your search query based on web sources, archiving old tabs, blocking ads, and pop-ups by default. Previously, Arc was available on Mac, iOS, and Windows, so welcome Android users.
The ability to create a short video clip from a text prompt is the hot new thing to show what your generative model is capable of these days. OpenAI's got Sora, Google has Lumiere, and also Veo. There are several others, Cog Video, Runway, Pika Labs, bunch more. And now Meta has a new one called Movie Gen. It can create video clips up to 16 seconds long, which may not sound long to you, but that's actually kind of long for these sorts of things. It can add audio too. So it can create the audio to sync with the video to provide ambient sounds. If you got a beach scene, it could have ocean waves in the background. It can add background music too. You can also prompt from an existing still image. So they showed them like showing a person running and then they showed a person eating a pumpkin, actually. You can also edit existing video. And that's the one with the person running. So you could say, put them in a dinosaur suit or give them pom-poms, and it'll edit the video to add those things in. Apparently the videos take tens of minutes to generate, and none of us can use it because, like most of these things, they are making it available internally and to select partners, which usually means like some filmmakers and stuff like that. Molly, it does seem like this is the new way to try to impress people on your model chops.
Guess so, yeah. Or to just sort of inspire a wave of layoffs based on the terror of this coming, but not actually make it available to people. I mean, it's exactly what so many artists and filmmakers have been worried about.
It's what they struck for, is protections against that sort of technology being abused. Right now, it's only 16 seconds long, so not yet.
It is interesting, the idea of showing off the AI chops before there's really it's sort of, I guess the fundamental question is, okay, so you're showing off your AI chops for what purpose? Is it to scare the competition? Is it so that when you eventually figure out what people will pay for, you're the one they're thinking of?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's sort of
like
an interesting
the second
race.
one is kind of a possibility, right? Like,
I guess so.
It's the like, ooh, that's impressive. Because when OpenAI put out Sora, it wasn't the first to do text to video, but because they are constantly impressing people acted as if Sora was the better one. And maybe it was, right? But they were like capturing the mind share.
First, arguably.
There were a couple other models
to the public.
There were a couple other models before Sora. They just didn't get a lot of attention, right? So that's what I think they put these out here, is try to get the buzz around your products. And then people are more likely to plop down to pay for ChatGPT because they think, well, eventually I'll be able to get Sora. At least I hope I will.
I mean, some of this feels like, okay, well, if it's 16 seconds long right now, okay, that's not a movie. I mean, probably not a short film you can do in 16 seconds. But, as it gets better and it gets longer, great. How many of us are going to be consuming these AI generated short or even long form films when that can be done by anybody with the press of a button going forward? I think some will. It almost feels more to me like this is like emoji in a way. It's like a short video that
I could make a GIF.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where, it helps you, tell a joke or describe your reaction to someone else's joke or something that you can create that wouldn't be available to you otherwise.
I mean, I have definitely been in fun text conversations that include, people, we're now making illustrations, like when something is kind of funny and I want to just go to ChatGPT and I like have it illustrate that thing. And then it is almost behaving like an emoji or more accurately a GIF in this case. But it's interesting when these demos come out because they immediately cause like a moral panic and a freak out about all the things that could go wrong. And then the company says, oh no, don't worry. We're totally making sure that there's, you won't be able to like turn this into a Taylor Swift porn video, which, by the way, you totally will be able to do. And so it's, I wonder at what point these demos, although amazing, right? They show the level of, they show the speed of innovation. I mean, it is pretty insane that I think even a year ago, we never would have thought that you were going to be able to create video from text. And in fact, Sam Altman was at an event. I saw him speak in San Francisco, and he was like, we're going to really slow our roll on that because it could go horribly wrong, and like, of course they're not. But I wonder at what point these demos will start to have diminishing returns, because there will be so much freak out about the capability that people will be like, maybe just cool it. Just like, don't.
Well,
I don't know.
Molly, Meta says it wants to, and I'll quote, sort out a bunch of really important problems around safety and responsibility.
Yeah. They're just going to sort that out.
Yeah.
Well,
they're on it.
They're going to sort it out.
They've done a great job with, teenage girl mental health and political misinformation and targeted harassment and housing violations and misstating their metrics so much that the entire news industry pivots to video and then loses their shirts.
That last
I think
one
they've done a great job sorting stuff out. You're good at sorting.
I have a feeling that these models will get better and better, and whether it's Meta or somebody else, you will see the fascination with their ability, just like we did when ChatGPT first arrived, kind of overtake the public imagination, which is why I think a lot of people who are covered by SAG-AFTRA and the other unions that are trying to put protections in are glad that they got ahead of that. Sort of stuff. Because all this can do is make, a GIF of me running in a dinosaur suit right now. But
so far,
the pace that these go, it might even be 5 years before you can just generate a 60-minute video. But it seems like that would be believable that that's going to happen.
It's coming. Like, I appreciate that they're letting us know it's coming, and it's coming faster than we expected. And at least we can try to sort stuff out, because we know Meta's not going to.
Yeah. Facebook announced some tweaks to its design meant to appeal to younger users. We might talk about this a little more on GDI too, but if you're looking and you're curious, the star of the show is the new Explore tab that'll be in the middle tab at the bottom nav and collect content relevant to your interests. It's an algorithm. Yay! That's what everybody's been demanding, right? Also, the video section will soon let you watch full screen videos. There's a local tab to pull in marketplace groups and events.
I mean, I'm
section.
a marketplace
I was going to say,
fan.
that one might actually be useful.
Through and through.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for those changes.
All right, so Automatic. We have talked about Automatic and its kerfuffle with WP Engine for the better part of 2 weeks now. Automatic announced Thursday that some of its employees disagreed with the handling of the WP Engine dispute and were offered a severance package to walk away from the company of $30,000 or 6 months' salary if that ended up being higher to leave the company. So 8.4% of its staff, that is 159 people, took the offer. That's a small part of the company, but it's a significant amount of people. 80% of those were in the ecosystem WordPress division. Among the departures were the head of WordPress.com, Automatic's hosting business, obviously, the head of programs and contributor experience, and Automatic's principal architect for AI. So yes, various folks may have just said, this just makes financial sense for me. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go to another company. Maybe I was looking for another job anyway.
That's what I was thinking too.
Some of these, are executive roles, and the idea that Automatic and WP Engine have been going at it for a while now has led some people to feel like the leadership at Automatic is not the leadership that they want.
Yeah, if you want the details on that dispute, see previous episodes of DTNS. We really don't want to go through it all again.
We've really gone through it.
But they've been mean to each other in public, like saying not nice things, not just veiled things, like calling each other names. And I could see where some people would say, you know what, I don't even care if you're right. I don't like the way this is done. I'll be honest. I'm a big fan of Automatic. I think what they've done with Tumblr and Pocket Casts and WordPress is great. I've always sort of admired Mullenweg, although I don't really know him. Molly and I worked with him for like a hot minute at CNET when they acquired his company a while back, but he wasn't there for very long, so I didn't really get to know him. But this has made me not feel as positive about him, even though I think he has a case. Like I feel like I might sympathize with him more than WP Engine. I don't like the way he has been going about it.
I mean, I wish I had more to add other than being ugly in public and putting your employees in the middle of that.
Yeah,
is never a good look.
I have a few very good friends and former colleagues that work at Automatic in various capacities right now. I don't know that this is striking them, personally at any point. But Mullenweg said in a post, which he posted to detail that he had allowed some employees to go, and here was their severance package and whatever, said those that decided to leave would lose access to Automatic the same day. They've got their own, it's called P2. It's like their own CMS, really. And so, you're out of there. And then wouldn't be eligible to boomerang, which is the way that they describe rehiring. So if you were to leave and say, you know what, I miss it here, they say, nope, at least today.
So the $30,000 is sort of an attempt to just like weed out the less loyal, or the people who
I guess.
I mean, it seems like the way this is positioned is that if you take this package, which, by the way, it would be reasonable to do in a situation like this where there's a lot of upset and uncertainty and you don't know how look, lawsuits sometimes put companies out of business, right? Like, who knows how long this could go on and what kind of resource drain it would be. This blog post and this sort of like you will lose access immediately and you won't be eligible to be rehired almost makes it feel like taking the money to leave is a loyalty test.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that feels bad. Like, if you're just saying, look, this could go on for a long time, we don't know what our resources are going to look like, here's a great, buyout package. That's one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
don't go away mad.
If you work here and you're and you're feeling weird about it, like, we've got our hands full, so just go.
Yeah.
Right. But instead it's like, go, but never come back. Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah.
Never come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a weird, that is what strikes me as so odd about this. Leaving aside everything else, it's basically like, if you take this buyout, you're a dirty, dirty rat. Like, what?
It's similar to my feelings about this are similar to my feelings about the whole situation, which is like, I kind of understand and think this might even be the right thing to do, but I don't like the way it's being done. Yeah. Similar to, like the whole situation with WP Engine, where WordPress has shut off automatic updates for them because they don't feel they're contributing enough, is not necessarily unreasonable, but it also has really bad effects in that, like, sure, they can go get those patches themselves, but that takes a lot of work to build up the ability to do if you don't know it's coming. So again, maybe not the wrong thing to do, but maybe this is not the right way to do it. It seems to be the running theme with this entire situation.
Ugly.
And I like WordPress. We're a customer. We run dailytechnewsshow.com on WordPress.com.
We do. Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you live long enough, all your good guys become bad guys. I think that's the takeaway.
But do the bad guys become good guys?
No, everybody just apparently reverts to the mean, and the mean is bad guy.
It's entropy.
Is there ever a bad guy who finally became the good guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't think of an example of that.
I suppose there are like middling guys. Like, there's like sort of the Mark Cuban move, where people are just like, oh, now he's like this, really respected voice on DE&I and whatever in politics and blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, the chat saying Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney, but that's a little loaded.
All I'll say is it puts me in mind of the comics Irredeemable and Uncorruptible, if you haven't read them. One is about a good superhero who goes bad, and the other is about a bad superhero who goes good. So maybe only in the comics, but that's the one example I can think of. If you have thought about that example and you're like, oh my gosh, I must tell you, how do I get in touch with you, Tom? Email us feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. So Molly recently got back from New York Climate Week, where there was a lot of discussion about a lot of things, of course, but particularly about big tech companies racing for energy to power their data centers. I think a lot of people have concerns about the amount of energy used in data centers. It's usually related to AI, but frankly, the amount of energy just used in a regular old data center without AI is huge. Molly, what were they talking about and what did you find out?
Yeah, so there's been this data center conversation for years, and companies, especially the big tech giants who are multinational and who increasingly have, their own sustainability goals or regulatory requirements around clean energy use, have been doing a pretty good job of procuring and incentivizing renewable energy to power these data centers. The AI layer has created a completely different vibe. And it was I think that for the couple of months leading up to New York Climate Week, people thought like maybe it's not going to be that busy, or it's just going to be a little bit muted, mostly because nobody knows what the US election is going to bring. And the kind of climate outcome of the election specifically is significant. So in some ways, people thought this would be a climate week where people are on pause. But in fact, it was not. It was a climate week where it was like overrun. It was almost like you just had like big tech swarm climate week in search of power, because there is this sort of desperate race for energy to power these future data centers, specifically because of AI. Like there had already been predictions that data center power consumption, which is estimated to be between 1% and 4% of global electricity usage, sort of depending on who you read. People settle right around 2.5% or 3%, will hit 9% even before the sort of model training, extreme increase in energy use as a result of LLMs. But so what you have seen is, this has been coming for a while, and you can really you can look at Sam Altman's history of investing in various energy projects over the last 2 years. Like it's, Microsoft the big news, of course, that you talked about on the show is that Microsoft is entering into an agreement that pending regulatory approval would reopen 3 Mile Island with Microsoft as its sole customer, which is bananas. Like they're like, we're going to reopen a nuclear plant because that's how much we need power.
It would reopen a new unit. There's currently a unit active, but it would reopen another unit. Yeah.
And as of July, I think the Wall Street Journal reported that 1/3 of nuclear power plants were in some kind of conversation with a big tech company. Sam Altman has been investing in fusion, fission, and renewables to try to secure reliable power supply. And so it's just this fascinating conversation about how these companies will end up getting this power. Now, you remember like when everybody was talking about how much energy cryptocurrency used and Bitcoin mining used, the response would always be, well, it's fine because it'll incentivize more renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of that happened, but what mostly happened is that like a shuttered coal plant in Montana reopened, one in upstate New York reopened, one in, a couple in Wyoming. Like they were just like, wherever we can get cheap power, we're going to do it because we can't wait for the permitting and the interconnection and the building of the renewable energy. And so now there's just, I think people at Climate Week were like, it's great that you're here and what you're talking about is trying to procure clean energy and even bringing more nuclear online is controversial, but it is carbon-free power, full stop.
Right.
And that's been something that a lot of advocates have been pushing for, is bringing back nuclear and not closing plants and, creating new nuclear fission innovations. And it's just this question of like, they're going to need the power. Even if this all turns out to be a bust, like they're going to overbuild as though they need all the power.
Yeah, because their projections say they're going to need it. They're going to go try to get it before they need it. Yeah.
They're going to put out demos so that you want to buy their stuff and then they're going to need the power to make it all happen. But yeah, it's just and then the question is like, will they do it cleanly or will they just start buying coal?
Well, if they were showing up at Climate Week, you'd be tempted to assume that that's what they want. And we've seen Amazon buy a nuclear powered data center. We saw Google CEO Sundar Pichai tell Nikkei that they're considering sourcing power from nuclear plants. Microsoft with 3 Mile Island. What do you sense from actually being there? Are those lovely press releases, or is it that they really are trying to avoid carbon emitting power sources?
I think they are genuinely trying to avoid carbon emitting power sources for a couple of reasons, but most of those reasons are rules. like the European, if you're a multinational and you're operating in Europe, you are required to have sustainability goals and net zero goals and procure renewable energy. That's just going to be like the rule. And so, and a lot of these companies have high profile sustainability goals that are based on, that their investor pressure and customer pressure and all those reasons are real.
Yeah.
However, economics is economics. And at the end of the day, if they're like, we can quintuple in size by going all in on AI, and the way that we get there is coal power from China, they're going to do it.
And so it only takes one of them to be like, we're behind. We can't afford to catch up unless we do that. And then once one of them does that, then the others get to have cover to do it, right?
Yeah. I think it's a looming moral hazard. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the US responds in a regulatory way to clear more roadblocks to renewable energy, which everybody's already been asking for. But bringing nuclear back online as baseload power is kind of like an accident. And, again, I recognize that it's controversial. I personally am of the opinion that we need nuclear in the mix because we can't deploy renewable fast enough, and it's intermittent. That all by itself is a thing that like Bitcoin promised for a really long time, and all of a sudden AI has done. And that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the difference, right? You saw a lot of people say Bitcoin was going to need a lot of stuff. There was less need than it looked like, and they ended up just attaching to existing stuff because they didn't have the ability to go to Constellation Energy and say, we would like to write you a check for all the power if you reopen Unit 1. Yeah.
It's just just keep an eye on this space. I have a newsletter that will be coming out about this so by the time you hear the show, it should be available at mollywood.co. But watch this space, because the energy generation question and conversation just got way, way, way more interesting. This is the biggest thing happening in energy right now.
And if you are the kind of person who believes in being part of a group that applies public pressure for things, there's going to be a lot of that around this.
Oh yeah.
You can bet your bottom dollar. Why the bottom dollar? Bet all any dollar. Yeah. Some people are betting a lot of dollars on this.
All right. Many dollars.
Probably too many dollars. Let's check out the mailbag.
This one comes from Jeff in Knoxville, Tennessee, who writes in about CNN's latest paid tier. Jeff says, when you listed the cost, my gut reaction was, this is more than my perceived value for the service. That's not to say it's overpriced in general, though. It left me wondering how to make a fair value determination. Should I compare it to a streaming service and how many hours I read versus watch? Maybe it's how much I read from them versus the cost of spending time reading books. None of these feel right, but what's the right comparison? They're certainly basing the cost on their cost to produce and host the content, and perhaps what they do or wish to make via ads. Since I don't know their costs or ad revenue, I can't base my decision on that. I want people paid for their work, but I don't want my view of current events to be limited by how many services I can afford to pay for.
Well, first of all, as I always do, they're probably not basing this on the cost of producing this, except to say they don't want it to lose money. They're basing it on what they think they can get people to pay for it, and that's what any business is going to do. Molly, do you have any advice for Jeff on how to decide if CNN is worth $3.99 a month?
I mean, I like that Jeff wants to quantify it, when I would argue that really it's just do you want it and care about it and value it? I mean, I am now paying $15 a month to be in a book group with like-minded romantasy readers, but I don't want to pay $4 a month for CNN because I already pay for all,
right.
It's just your personal value thing. But I really want to note the biggest thing he said, which is that everybody and this has been happening for over a decade now, that every service comes out and it's it's just $5.99. It's just $9.99. But there are hundreds of them. And the closest roll up we have is something like Apple News, which I'm happy to pay for at this point because I get a bunch of premium news subscriptions in it. But the idea that we're going to continue to pay for all of these things individually and have to make a service by service value determination like this, we already know there's tons of fatigue. I mean, I think you just decide if you want to pay for this because you love CNN and you love like specific anchors.
Well,
but
I really
otherwise,
like Jeff's approach to the question, which is if I pay for CNN, like you said, it limits what I can pay for other things. And I don't like having my view of current events limited by how many services I can afford.
Yeah. And this is tough. I know that we need a business model for journalism. I'm very concerned and have been concerned for a long time about a world where quality information is only available if you can afford to pay. And people who cannot afford to pay get misinformation and lies.
I just this is not me arguing against anything that anyone has said, Jeff, Molly, Sarah, or otherwise, but do remember that we used to get the highest quality news from a paid source, the newspaper, which was subsidized by advertising, and that radio and television news were the free ones that everyone didn't think were as valuable. The problem now is actually we have too many sources. Right. Back then, you paid for the newspaper because it was the newspaper. And now you can pay for literally limitless number of newspapers. There is no limit to what you can buy. And so it makes the decision harder. And I think that's what Jeff's running into here.
And that actually, on that note, I had a conversation just recently with a friend who was saying, what am I supposed to do about the news media business model? I pay for the New York Times and I pay for the Atlantic and I pay for the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and da-da-da-da. And I said, hold up. Do you pay for any local news? And my personal opinion is that when you are making your value calculation, you should pay for local news. That is where corruption gets caught early. That's where we find out quickly how bad things are in Appalachia because national news media cannot get there, but a functioning and robust local news ecosystem would be on the ground. Even regional news, as somebody just said in the comments, like we tend to bias when we do this math toward national news sources. In fact, you need one national news source, and then you should support your local and regional ecosystem because, frankly, that's where the real work that matters to you day to day is being done. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
The problem is you're asking people to care about their local issues. That's the problem.
But they do. They're on Nextdoor talking about it all the time. Like that's the stuff you talk to your friends about. We've stopped realizing how much we care about it. We're like, where are the cops? Why are there so many potholes? This tree fell down. How come my community is not more resilient to climate change? It's because Lee newspapers bought all of your local papers and you don't have a reporter in town talking about the tree falling.
You might not even have local news to support because of that.
Yeah.
Well, on that fun note, let's cheer things up and turn to Len Peralta, who has been illustrating today's show. Len, what have you drawn for us today?
Oh, what a great conversation that is. That's pretty amazing. Fusion energy is pretty intense, I got to say. I am really amazed by fusion energy. Yes. And this is the power of the sun running these data centers. And this is Doc.
Gosh, I didn't realize the sun wore such a cool jacket.
I know.
The sun is pretty amazing, really, actually.
Yeah.
This is Doc Ock running, it's a little Spider-Man reference to the power of the sun. Anyway, if you're interested in Doc Ock, Spider-Man, and all that great stuff, you can get this at my Patreon, patreon.com/Len. Back me at the DTNS level. You'll get it immediately, or go to my online store, purchase it for yourself, or commission me. You never know. You might be able to get something fresh for somebody, right? So
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Plus, I need to buy a new mic. So.
Yeah, please help Len. This is a last-minute mic he's talking into. He needs your commissions now.
It's an easy value calculation to make.
Good stuff, Len. Good hustle.
Very good.
Live
Very
shows. Good. You never know what you're gonna get. And Len pulled it off. Molly Wood, you pull it off every time you're with us. Let folks know where they can keep up with what you do.
Man, you're the best. Everybodyinthepool.com is the home of the home of the podcast, where you could see the exact same tile art over and over and over. I don't know, whatever. I'm working on that. And mollywood.co is where you can subscribe to the newsletter, where you will get a weekly update when a new episode launches, and things like analysis of the big trends at New York Climate Week and the tech that's happening there.
Fantastic. Go check it out, folks. Also, this week's top 5 is out. Smartphones from before the iPhone. Yeah, there were smartphones before the iPhone, kids. Ask your parents or watch this top 5 at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok, DTNS Pix, PIX on Instagram, and youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. If you're a patron, don't go anywhere. Stick around. We have the extended show Good Day Internet just about to start. It's time for a Friday quiz. Which city is already energy self-sufficient? Where was the first wind energy generated? And the surprising country that is not Iceland that produces the most geothermal energy. Find out and play along.
You can catch our show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2000 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again on Monday with Nika Monfort joining us, and we hope you all have a great weekend.
This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people. Host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt. Host, producer, and writer Sarah Lane. Executive producer and booker Roger Chang. Producer, writer, and co-host Rob Dunwood. Video producer Joe Kuntz. Producer at large Anthony Lemos. Spanish language host, writer, and producer Dan Campos. Science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, aka Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music and art provided by Martin Bell, Dan Luters, Mustafa A., Acast, and Len Peralta. Live art performed by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias, and Patreon support from Tom McNeil. Our contributors for this week's shows include Ayaz Akhtar, Chris Christensen, Scott Johnson, Justin Robert Young, and Molly Wood. And thanks to all our patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.